Thank you, Lord Mayor. I move this motion along with my colleague, Councillor Zakir Chowdhury. We are pleased on behalf of the Liberal Democrats to bring this motion, which involves the private hire trade here in Birmingham. But before I deal with the substance of this motion, I think it is imperative to talk a little about the private hire trade. There is, in my view, very little that gets mentioned or indeed recognised in relation to the good work many thousands of residents that live in our city and that work in this trade. Over 6,000 private hire licences issued by Birmingham City Council, many thousands issued by other councils, but the drivers living within Birmingham. It is, in my view, probably one of the most difficult jobs to do, with unsociable hours, picking up passengers that range from being pleasant to abusive, and in the extreme circumstances, violent. Drivers having to carry passengers that are sometimes intoxicated, vomiting, and even urinating in the back of a taxi, rendering that driver incapable to work for the remainder of that day. No compensation, and historically, many left without a fare with absconding passengers. A lot of that has now changed with Uber, Bolt, and other mobile apps. That helps rate drivers as well as passengers, and payment is made without failure. The mobile apps are sophisticated and provide assurances to both passengers and drivers, but significantly, the apps use live traffic data to provide the cost of a journey. And this is important because our motion, if successfully implemented, would certainly mean a reduction in the cost of fares. And no doubt this would be welcomed by many citizens of Birmingham, where the cost of living is squeezing virtually every family in our city. But that's not the only reason for supporting our motion. Allowing private hire vehicles to use the bus lanes would provide quicker journeys, especially at peak times. It would also naturally reduce congestion. And as we all know, congestion from non-moving traffic or slow-moving traffic leads to emissions of harmful byproducts of combustion, not only harmful to people, but harmful to the environment. And this is very significant because the build-up of traffic is in the main around inner city areas, where it is well documented. It's a fact that children and adults that live within inner cities have lower lifespans than those that live further afield. They are and have amongst the highest respiratory illnesses in the city. Just to quote some figures from our own City Council's website, up to 900 deaths per year linked to air pollution, links to heart disease, diabetes, cancer, dementia, asthma. There are links to stillbirths, infant deaths, low birth weight, organ damage. It is said that children in high pollution areas, namely the inner city areas like the Aston ward that I represent, are 4 more times likely to have reduced lung function when they become adults. You only need to visit, Lord Mayor, our local GPs in the Aston ward to see how undated they are with asthma clinics. Now, of course, we would all love to be living in an ideal world where there is no pollution, where people adopt to walking and using non-polluting travel methods, but we have to be realistic in what we can and cannot do. At present, private hire taxis are instrumental in the functioning of our city, not just ferrying commuters to work, but also assisting the elderly and vulnerable members of our community. How many times have you seen private hire drivers carrying shopping bags for their customers and passengers, loading up the boots of their cars? And the same is done on the other side when they drop off that passenger. To some, that may seem trivial, but ask Dave, a pensioner living all by himself, who would simply not even go out of his home if it weren't for private hire drivers to assist in little chores such as that. Imagine not being able to leave your home, the impact that would have on your mental and physical well-being, and the knock-on effects on other sectors within the NHS. And that's not all. Taxi drivers taking vulnerable members of our community to their hospital appointments at peak times, taking vulnerable children to school, and the list goes on. It goes without saying, Lord Mayor, that without this trade, Birmingham City would struggle to function. And despite our aspirations to get more people onto public transport and no transport, it would be an absolute fallacy and unrealistic to think that this would achieve, certainly in the next decade or so. We simply lack the infrastructure, and although confidence is improving in the public transport, it is nonetheless nowhere near what it needs to be at present. For example, we know that bus lane and buses using bus lanes are restricted by vehicles that park. And that, of course, is an enforcement matter. But Councillor Clements knows all too well when she visited the Aston ward, when we had witnessed firsthand vehicles parking in bus lanes, causing issues. And as Councillor Clements quite rightly said, it's an enforcement matter. And now, Lord Mayor, we know that bus lanes have been used by private hire drivers in other parts of this country. Of course, we want to reduce our carbon footprint, and we want to encourage people to use, less people to use their own personal cars into the city centre. And we know that the cost of a journey in your private car and parking your car in the city centre is more than the cost to catch a taxi, certainly if you're travelling in large numbers, 2, 3, or if you're going to shop for large and bulky items. And so in my motion, Lord Mayor, we say that we have the advantage of private hire drivers, which are moving to greener cars, and that's a positive feature we must support. Naturally, Lord Mayor, with this motion, there will be an impact on bus times. I accept that. But in my view, it is so insignificant when compared to the health benefits of reduced congestion for thousands of children that live in inner city wards, such as the Aston ward. This motion should be supported by all in this chamber. Lord Mayor, I move this motion.
I call on Councillor Jacob Chaudhry to second the motion.